Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, very often when we talk about role-playing game procedures, we say things like, to do it, simply do it. Don't tell me what move you're going to make. Don't tell me what skill you're going to use, all this kind of thing. Don't tactically look down at your character sheet and put together something and say it in a very mechanical manner. To do the thing, do the thing. Tell me what your character is doing. And players do this all the time, and sometimes they tell you, I want to do the thing, and you look down, oh, there's no rule for how to do the thing. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? They want to do the thing. Can they do the thing? What should I do here? And so, depending on what game you play, there is this fruitful void, which oddly enough, I've just made a video about. But I got a chance to play in a game of, let's see, it's called Untold Adventures, and this is by James Spahn. It is based on the Swords and Wizardry rules, and it's very hard to impress me with an OSR anymore. This one actually impressed me. It is really, really good because it is about as bare bones as you can get. And this video is not about that game. I might make a review of that video, but I know Jason already has. I haven't actually even watched the review. We just played it together, and it was a really cool game. But it's very bare bones. There's a rule for a couple things in the game and not very much else. And so there's this whole big expanse where there's no rules. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about OSR or not, although this video is going to talk mostly about OSRs. There's plenty of games out there that don't have a lot of rules. And very often the player says, I want to do the thing. Even in a game where there's a lot of rules, the player tells you, I want to do this thing. And it doesn't cover it. What do you do? And it's funny. It's in conversations with people. Some of my friends are used to playing games with a lot more procedures, and the nature of like a, say, rules-light game kind of befuddles them, especially when they're presented with, well, you have these optional resolution mechanics you can use, and they're not really sure, well, when do I use this, when do I not use this, just trying to wrap their head around it. So this video is primarily for people like that maybe they're just new to OSRs, maybe they're new to playing rules light, maybe they're just new to being a game master, period, and they're wondering, like, well, what do I do here? So I'm going to use the examples in this book, maybe throw in one or two other ones. And these are things I've talked about a lot, but I'm going to talk about them again because I think it bears repeating. Because sometimes this can be daunting, and it's easy for a person like me who's been doing this for a long, long time to forget just how daunting it actually can be. So the player says, I want to do X. There's no rule in the game for what do I do at this particular point. The first thing I like to do in any game, but especially OSRs, is to have a Game Master cheat sheet. I know what your ability scores are. I know what your level is. I know what your character concept is. If you say you're a Viking, we established, okay, this guy's a Viking. Mechanically it doesn't really mean anything, but we have that knowledge. This guy's from the city. He's a member of the high court, or a scribe or whatever. So we have an idea of who this person is. They say, I want to do X, and maybe I decide, well, can they do the thing? Can anybody do the thing? Sure. Maybe I decide that I don't even need to look at the character sheet, but maybe I need to use the karma resolution mechanic, where the idea is I just look down and see, well, what kind of person are they? Oh, they're this strong. Of course you can do the thing. Or, man, the guy looks a little weak. I'm not really sure if you can. Or, gee, you are, a farmer, or you're a Viking. You know about outdoorsy stuff. This thing doesn't seem to be particularly hard that you want to do. Okay, and you sort of hand wave it based upon the idea that that's who this person is. That's kind of your first line of defense, or so to speak, or your first my first step in determining, like, can this person do the thing at all? Then there's resolution mechanics. This game gives you 3 optional resolution mechanics to use when you run into one of those situations, which I guarantee you will run into a lot running an OSR, especially one that does not have a lot of rules. The first one is the attribute check, the idea that you roll equal to or below the attribute score in question on a d20, and you can figure out the person wants to charm their way past a bunch of guards, or maybe we had a situation in the game where one of the characters was kind of arguing his point that maybe he should be allowed to play in this tournament even though he was a funny-talking foreigner. And we did not use the resolution mechanic there, but that's a moment you could say, you know what, go ahead and roll below your charisma, or equal to, otherwise you might offend the guy. And you have to make that decision. Do we want to make an attribute check here? Maybe you want to jump across a chasm or whatever, or try to walk across that slippery plank that I talk about very frequently. You do that. It's more attribute based. You can modify it based upon a whole bunch of things, whether you think it's easy task or hard task. Maybe up to plus or -4, or maybe you can even modify it based upon the person's level, or like how the person's describing that they're charming the guards. All that sort of stuff. The second thing is the D6. Try for low. The idea that you decide, okay, well, you have an X in 6 chance of being able to do this. Maybe it's really, really hard, so you only have a 1 in 6 chance. Maybe it's fairly easy, so you decide, they have a 5 in 6 chance to do this. And then maybe you get that situation where maybe the guys are out in the wilderness, we are starving to death, and we're all trying to hunt enough game to keep ourselves alive. And maybe all the other characters have like a 1 in 6 chance. Maybe this is pretty hard where we are, but maybe our Viking friend, maybe he's such an outdoorsy guy that he is a 3 in 6 chance. He's 2 better, which is like in D20 terms, that's like equal to over a +6 at that point. Pretty heavy duty. But you can figure out, based on the situation, what kind of chance should this person have in that situation. And then they'll go ahead and roll the dice, see what happens. And then the last thing is the saving throw, which I thought was pretty interesting. But in a game like this one, they use the basic swords and wizardry saving throw, where there's just 1 save for everything, and it's tied to your class, but it's also tied to your level. So every level you get 1 better at making those saving throws. So why not use that for a resolution mechanic, pretty much tied to the fact that you are an adventurer, and as time goes on, you become more competent in general. Well, you become better at doing things that are related to adventuring or whatever it happens to be. And so go ahead, you need to roll, and once again you can modify it based on, is this really hard, is this really simple? So which one do you use in which situation? Well, this is a matter of figuring out well, what exactly is going on here. Is it simply something that's just tied to an ability score? Is it something that's just a flat old X in 6 chance? This looks really hard, I don't care who you are, this is a 2 in 6 chance of anybody being able to do this, etc. And you're going to make some mistakes. There's going to be some times where it's not consistent from judgment call to judgment call. Personally, I believe this is okay, as long as you get kind of within the ballpark and you're willing to talk to your players about it if somebody has a problem with it. I made a video a long time ago talking about the idea that making calls on the fly, no matter what adjudication mechanic you use, you're going to be a little bit inconsistent here and there, but the inconsistency is okay because life is inconsistent, and maybe the circumstances were a little bit different in each particular part of the fictional situation, if you follow me. As long as you're being a jerk and you're trying to be fair and you're using your kind of invisible rule books, the ones that the game master has in your head that you understand, okay, my understanding of this situation is this is really tough, this is really easy. I'm really not sure about this, but genre appropriate wise it ought to be really easy for this guy to do it because it would be cool. You make up your own rationale for why you do it, and it's something that is a little bit of science and a little bit of art. It helps to know what the probabilities are in dice and kind of roll them out if you're not really sure, get an idea of percentage chances. Heck, you can go ahead and just use percentile dice if you want to, but after that, it's kind of like a little bit of feel, and you start to get an idea of how do I do this, and then the other factor that comes in is, when should I roll these dice in the first place? It's not just the idea of can this guy do the thing, but is this exciting? Does it matter if the guy can do the thing or not? Is it going to be something where failure might be interesting? Is it going to be something where it really just might be kind of entertaining if they fail or if they succeed? Or is this a moment where we really don't care that much? Let's move on because it's not that exciting of a moment, or it's not a moment that really is going to provide consequences that are really going to be central to what we're trying to do here. Whatever the focus of the game happens to be, and that's entirely up to you as a group. So it is the matter of being able to figure out not only can he do the thing, is this tough to do the thing, but do we really care if he can do the thing? So that's probably a little bit too long-winded, but that's my algorithm for making calls in an OSR when we have this big giant fruitful void. And I use all kinds of mechanics. I'm really fond of the 2d6 powered by the Apocalypse roll. Ever since I found that mechanic, I use that an awful lot. There's a whole bunch of other ones. It really doesn't matter what the mechanics are, although these 3 that they mention in this book really cover just about everything. But it's just an idea of wrapping your head around that and being okay with the idea that you might every once in a while might be a little inconsistent. It's all right. Don't lose sleep over it, and you can always make adjustments afterwards. There's plenty of times after games where I said, man, I don't think I should have made him roll dice there, or maybe I made that too tough or too easy. It's okay. The moment's over. The game goes on. So exhale, deep breath. It's going to be okay. So that's my take on that subject, and I really do enjoy that game. I really want to do at least maybe a short review of it because it is pretty darn cool.